I'm going to explain how it is with men and women. Well, from the perspective of a man, anyway. You're either attractive or you're the opposite of attractive, which is what people usually say unattractive. But if you think about it, the opposite is repulsive. If two things attract, they come together. And if they push apart, they repel each other. They're repulsive. So you're either attractive or you're repulsive. How do you know which one you are? Unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, but if you ask the question, then it means you're repulsive. Because when you're attractive, you know it. Because you don't have any trouble attracting women. They just are drawn to you. Attractive men, this is what they say. They say, no, I never had any trouble attracting a woman. It's so strange sounding. They just never had any trouble. It was never an issue. And that's what it's like when you're an attractive man. What percentage of men are attractive? I mean, I talked about it in a previous video. You got to be kind of like a top shelf in a lot of the traits that they're looking for. So you're looking at the top 10 to 20% of men. The rest are repulsive. They're either completely invisible because they're below the halfway mark. I talked about this before. They're either below the halfway mark, which means they're completely invisible, or they're in that like below the 20%, but above the middle, so they're kind of like consolation prizes. Either way, they're repulsive. Either way, she's going to be resentful if she ends up with them. The crazy thing is you can end up in a relationship even if you are repulsive to them. And they'll use sort of a very, very long-term strategy measured in years to slowly harness and control you and wear you down. This doesn't happen to attractive men. This is what happens to repulsive men. Men that end up in marriages. Men that end up going to their job, bringing home more and more money as she demands more and more. Never seems happy, always seems to get more bitter. But then when she goes on dates with her new boyfriend, she's suddenly all pleasant again. Funny how that works. So, you know you're repulsive when you ask the question. Because if you don't know, then that is the answer, unfortunately. Attractive men have a different problem. Their problem is that women annoy them. Their problem is that women try to pull them away from things they'd rather do. When you're a repulsive man, this sounds a little strange because being with a woman sounds like the thing you'd like to do more than anything. Like, man, if I could just be with a woman, I'd be happy. Everything would be colorful and wonderful. But for an attractive man, he's had enough women, and he sees kind of the trouble that comes along with them. And he realizes other things in life are actually more interesting, more engaging, more fun. Some of his hobbies, some of his friendships, some trips or endeavors, business, lots of things he'd like to do that aren't centered around women. But these women are constantly competing and trying to get his attention, trying to get him to commit to them, competing with each other. This is what makeup and clothing is all about. Competition with each other, with these women, for the attractive men. But the attractive men, they get irritated by all this drama, these women fighting each other, and they just would like to do other things. So if your main problem with women is that they annoy you and you'd rather do other things, then that means you're attractive. If your main problem with women is that they don't seem to give you much attention, Or there's one woman giving you a crazy amount of attention and making you feel like you're a horrible failure or something over time. That can happen too. Those both mean you're repulsive. But being repulsive to women, it sounds bad, right? It sounds horrible, like it's a judgment, like I'm trying to knock your self-esteem or something, but it doesn't really work like that. Women are trying to create offspring, right? Create children. They're trying to find the best seed they can find. And if they don't want your seed, your traits to copy, then that's their business, not yours. Do you see what I'm saying? You may have a desire. Men, we all have this desire deep inside of us to be with a woman. But while it may feel like that desire is in service to us, it is not. That desire is in service to the women. So we're all available as backup plans. If all the attractive warriors get slaughtered in the battle, then the leftover men are at least available and very willing, because they all have this desire embedded in their brainstem, in the deepest part of their mind. So the desire is there, even though it feels good to us. That good feeling is very, very temporary, notice. Very short-lived. Its main function is to motivate us. It makes us, we'll do anything, we'll climb the tallest mountain, we'll surrender everything, throw away our life savings. We do all sorts of crazy things just to try to get on the good side of some woman that's sparked this feeling from our brainstem. But it's in service to her, not in service to us. Essentially, fundamentally, in the long term, if you see what I mean. So when you recognize this desire as something that serves the women, it's kind of like a hook, like a port, like a interface in our brainstem that they can connect to use for their purpose. And yes, getting that port connected to somebody feels great. It feels like it fulfills your life and makes something worth living, but that feeling is temporary. It's a high, it's a drug. It's something of an illusion. Yeah, there's something real to it, but it's not as important as it feels in your own mind. So when you recognize that, the fact that you're repulsive is sort of a value neutral evaluation, because you're repelling this thing that is trying to decide about which people to copy, and you don't have the traits that the species wants. So you're naturally repelling it. It's just like physics, like different molecules repelling each other. And that's all it is. It's not a judgment of you. Exactly. I mean, of course it is completely a judgment of you, but it's not a judgment of, your worth as a entity, as a being. It's just a judgment of some traits that have nothing to do with you. They were essentially all hereditary. I mean, yeah, you can work out and I'm gonna get some muscles, but I mean, for the most part, that's pretty genetic in the first place anyway. And your personality is pretty well set from genetics and maybe some of how you're raised or something, but all that is pretty well set as well. So when you realize this, the best response, I think, is acceptance and looking for other things, other ways to find meaning in your life. Maybe your own hobbies, but maybe go deeper than just like a hobby, with something like deep and fulfilling that isn't chasing this drug that's hiding in your brainstem that has to do with connecting to women because it creates a lot of destruction. Look at these guys who throw away their lives. They throw away everything pursuing a woman, and then when she destroys him, he moves on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. He just does not learn his lesson. So if you're repulsive to women, it's like a boulder rolling down a hill. Like it's landed in a low point, and it will be stable there if you just leave it alone. That's where it's meant to be. And I think of it like that, like physics. So if you're repulsive, just accept where you've landed. Don't try to fight and struggle and pretend things should be different. Whatever society you're in, whatever tribal dynamics or large-scale social problems are happening, that's just physics. That's your environment. That's what's around you. And to fight and struggle and indulge your fantasy and think things should be different, okay, maybe you can have some influence here and there. Maybe you can make adjustments and increase your chances, your odds. But it seems a little foolish to me. You might think, oh, I'll find the one woman that values me, because every woman is different. That's true. But they're also a collective. They're trying to improve the species, and they've kind of agreed on what direction the species wants to go based on available resources, based on large-scale factors of the society. And so to look for an individual woman who's split off from the group and is doing her own thing and is looking for her own special traits that she wants, that's just not how it works. The species envelops all of the participants. If individuals split off, they're kind of working against the entire species, the genetics that's trying to move it all in one cohesive improvement direction. So if you're holding out for one individual woman who likes the traits that you have specifically, I think it's a delusion. It's a fantasy. It's a coping strategy. I think it's better to accept what nature has shown to you, and if some miracle woman comes along, I mean, first of all, you'll have to have your antenna up and make sure, is this person trying to deceive me over the long term? You can never quite be sure. If she's not and things work out, I guess that's great, but I wouldn't live my life with this slow burning hope that she's coming around. This is probably a horribly depressing thing that I've been talking about, but I think it's true. So I know people don't like to hear negative and difficult things, but I think it's better to live in alignment with the truth than to rage and struggle against it.